see a fraud. A man who betrayed his people to a system built to keep them down. Is that what you think?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Nick Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle, and we're back again. Now, the last video I made was about Franklin Saint and narcissistic personality disorder, but this segues into him being an Uncle Tom. You're probably wondering, where did that even come from? Now, let's talk about, first and foremost, why did I even bring this up? Now, he uses the term Uncle Tom numerous times throughout the series.
Uncle Tom ass.
Now, for those who may not know the term Uncle Tom, I'll explain. It's usually used towards black people from other black people, but I've seen it used amongst white people towards black people, which is weird to me altogether. But basically to refer to someone who's kind of a sellout of the black race. It's been used against people like Kanye West, Brandon Tatum, or even Candace Owens. They're very popular YouTubers, musicians, obviously, that may have some more right-leaning politics and people don't like that, or they have some feelings. But that's usually when Uncle Tom comes about, when a black person is seen as a sellout or not true to their own community. Now, coming back to Snowfall, Franklin uses this term to numerous black people throughout the series, referring to the same context. Now, why I want to bring this up, there might be a misconception. The term Uncle Tom might not being used the correct way, because where does that term even come from in general? Now, that's the saying, but where did people first get the term Uncle Tom? Actually comes from American literature. So there's a novel actually called Uncle Tom's Cabin, written by Harriet Beecher Stowe in 1852, which talks about numerous topics about the South and slavery and the actual family trying to get their freedom and their mistreatment due to their slave owners, thinking that even though they're kind of benevolent, that they're not as bad, but it's still slavery. And then some of the themes in the book, people refer to like demonstrating stereotypes of black people being docile and this easygoing. So that's why the term Uncle Tom became a negative thing, because it's making the light, I guess, of how bad slavery really was. But the people who wrote it, Harriet Beecher Stowe and her father, also were abolitionists. So we can look at that as we will. Remember, I used to be a history teacher too, so I like this side of things. But bringing it back to not just the psychology, but the overall theme in general, Uncle Tom was actually based off a real person. His name was actually Josiah Henson. Now, his life may not be exactly like the book is, but he's said to be an inspiration for the character. And he lived between 1789 and 1883. And in his lifespan, he would be freed in 1830 and go up to what we now know as Ontario in Canada. He would even set up a settlement called the Dawn Institute up in Canada, and it would have over 500 black residents that would stay up there until slaves were free here in America, and a lot of them will come back. But he actually stayed up there until his death in 1883. But all this being said, that's a pretty positive influence on black people in American history, right? But you can see how the connotation gets misconstrued. And there's even literature that would combat Uncle Tom's Cabin to paint more of a picture and kind of skew the name and the reputation of the book, because people in the South weren't really happy about slaves being freed. So I guess that got lost in translation along the way. And eventually the term would just stick for any black person who goes against the community. And to this day, we still use it incorrectly, I think, because the Uncle Tom inspiration, Josiah Henson, actually was a helpful person in black people's freedom. So I think that should be changed. But getting back to Snowfall. So Uncle Tom, let's look at how we refer to people. Sellouts, not for the community, not for the people. Franklin used this term to people he thought were like that because they worked for the police or something like that. He called Andre and Uncle Tom. He called some other agents that were black. So you can see, if they had any authority working with the government, which is seen as the man, especially it took place in the early to mid 80s, and that means they're born in the 60s or so, give or take. You can see the time period, the civil rights movement, the Black Panthers. His dad was a Black Panther, fight the power. You can see how this could be an issue. But when you think about what he actually did to the black community, is he the one that should be at fault? Let's look at that. Because remember, this show was about selling crack cocaine. The drug epidemic, even though Franklin's not a real person, every character in this show, beyond the crazy violence, not saying violence didn't happen, but some of it wasn't realistic. I do firearms training with police, tactical populations, and it's not that easy to shoot like that. But beyond that, the actual storyline makes sense, and these things did happen. People are still in prison to this day because of the same things in this setting. But think about it, bringing drugs to your community. There's numerous times in this series that they hinted at, are you really the good guy here? Are you not hurting your community? You would see people smoking. Even Leon's wife, Wanda, would even get hooked. And that was his best friend's girl. And it's like the impact could come so close to home. And it's usually looked at as, well, I'm not making them do it, but you're the one supplying it. or the justification is, I don't bring him into the country. And you can see this show is centered around U.S. government's involvement in drug trafficking, which that is very much true. And even to fund wars, but that's a whole other topic. But the point is, he's trying to abscond the guilt off of himself when he definitely plays a role. And all the people that are affected beyond just the drug usage, what about the senseless murders, the killings? You can see numerous characters, even a scene at Jerome's wedding where he got drugged, where the whole party got drugged. And he would have an out-of-body experience where he was pretty much talking to himself, and that conscious of all the people that had to suffer and die because of his actions came to light to him.
Tiana, Khadijah, Lenny, Carvel, him, her, him, bodies. They're all dead. That's how you help Franklin?
So you can see that he's well aware that he did do a lot of damage to the community. There's a lot of people to this day still doing the same things. And this is not to pass judgment and say it belittles people, but addiction, I worked in addiction centers, is not a great thing to deal with. Obviously, it ruins lives, but also physically, it kills people. But you can't say that you're for the community if this is what you're doing. So I think personally, if anyone's the Uncle Tom, it's Franklin Saint. And the crazy thing about all of it is getting to all of these things, getting people addicted to drugs, hard drugs that ruin communities. At the end, spoiler, this is a spoiler coming, so you ready for it? He became an alcoholic. The guy who was straight-laced, tried not to drink, his father was an alcoholic, ends up becoming an alcoholic. And the crazy thing about it is he's not contributing to his community anymore. Yeah, he did some things when he was on top. But even when Leon came back and saw him like that, drunk, dirty, living in squalor, he didn't try to take advantage of his friend being in a position to help him. He shot it down. He literally said, I don't care, I'm living free. He doesn't have to worry about money anymore. He's just living day to day. And you even see his house get broken down. And that's crazy how that comes full circle, because you can't help your community if you're not well and doing good. So you can see how all that power, all the things he accomplished and did went for nothing. In the end, he didn't help the community. He only helped himself. He even threw his mom under the bus. So he went out pretty badly. You can see the effect is generational because, like I say, even though this is not a true story, the stories are true. And these effects are still affecting us socially, financially, and psychologically to this day. So we got to take this into consideration, guys, so we can get our minds right.